bankruptcy, despair, oblivion. For most companies, these are signs of the end. Giants that once dominated the world reduced to ashes, a footnote in history. But what if it's not the end? What if rock bottom is, in fact, the perfect place to build a new foundation? This is the story of the greatest resurrections in the business world. Companies that looked into the abyss, laughed, and took a leap of faith, from the brink of bankruptcy to global domination. Today, on The Big Comeback, we tell the story of the 10 greatest and most impressive turnarounds of all time. Get ready, because these stories prove that sometimes you have to break to become unbreakable. Our countdown begins with a veritable colossus, IBM. For decades, its name was synonymous with computing. Its mainframes were the brains of governments and the world's largest corporations. IBM didn't sell products, it sold certainty. But the world changed. The personal computer revolution, led by young companies like Apple and Microsoft, caught the giant by surprise. IBM became slow, arrogant, and bureaucratic. In the early 90s, the company was bleeding, losing up to $8 billion in a single issue. A record at the time. The market declared, Big Blue is going to die. It was then, in 1993, that the unthinkable happened. For the first time in its history, IBM hired an outside CEO, Lou Gerstner. Everyone expected him to slice up and sell the company. But he shocked the world by saying, the last thing IBM needs right now is a vision. Gerstner realized that IBM's strength wasn't in selling boxes, but in solving problems. He united the company and redirected it from a hardware manufacturer to an IT services and consulting giant. He taught the elephant to dance. IBM not only survived, but thrived in the new digital age, proving that even the biggest giants can learn to adapt. In 9th place, a company that lives in the hearts of generations, Nintendo. After revolutionizing the world with the Wii, the expectation for its successor was astronomical. And then came the Wii U. It was a disaster. The console was confusing. The marketing was a failure, and the games didn't come. Nintendo, the company that gave us Mario and Zelda, posted the first operating losses in its history. Wall Street and gamers wondered, has Nintendo lost its magic? The answer came after the tragic death of its visionary CEO, Satoru Iwata. With a new leader, Nintendo made its boldest bet. What if they stopped competing directly with the brute force of Sony and Microsoft? What if, instead, they created something different? This idea materialized in the Nintendo Switch, a console you could play on your living room TV and, with a simple click, take with you anywhere. It wasn't the most powerful, but it was the most versatile, the most fun. The Switch wasn't just a success. It was a cultural phenomenon that saved Nintendo, sold over 140 million units, and put the company back on the throne of innovation, proving that the power of a good idea surpasses any graphics. 8th place on our list smells like coffee. Starbucks, the company that doesn't sell coffee, it sells an experience. But in 2008, that experience was turning sour. In its quest for unbridled growth, Starbucks lost its way. The stores became fast food franchises. The smell of fresh coffee was replaced by that of reheated sandwiches, and the human connection gave way to automated processes. With the global financial crisis, consumers were no longer willing to pay a premium for mediocre coffee. The stock plummeted 75%. The turnaround had to be drastic, and it came with the return of its founder, Howard Schultz, to the CEO position. His first move was a shock. He closed all 7,100 Starbucks stores in the U.S. for an entire afternoon, losing millions in sales, just to retrain his baristas on how to make the perfect cup of coffee. Schultz brought the soul back to the company. He reintroduced the aroma, the comfort, and the feeling of a third place, a space between home and work. Starbucks embraced technology, not to replace the human element, but to enhance the experience. The turnaround was so successful that the company became stronger and more valuable than ever. In seventh place, a story of pride and courage. In 2008, the American auto industry was on its knees. The global financial crisis hit it like a meteor. General Motors and Chrysler, Ford's historic rivals, went to Washington to beg for a government bailout to avoid bankruptcy. Ford was in the same boat, earning through billions, with stocks worth less than a piece of gum. Everyone expected it to follow the same path. But CEO Alan Mulally, an executive from Boeing, made one of the bravest decisions in corporate history. He refused the government money. Instead, he made an all-or-nothing bet. He mortgaged every single company asset, every factory, every brand. Even the iconic blue oval logo was put on the table as collateral for a $23 billion loan. If the plan failed, Ford, the company that invented the assembly line, would disappear forever. The plan, called One Ford, unified the company globally, focusing on quality, efficient cars. The bet paid off. Ford not only survived the crisis on its own, but emerged from it stronger, leaner, and with the respect of the entire world. The sixth position belongs to the company that changed how we watch television, Netflix. But before it became a verb, it made a mistake that nearly destroyed it. In 2011, at the height of its popular DVD rental service, Netflix arrogantly decided to separate its streaming and DVD services, creating a new brand called Quickster and raising the price for customers by 60%. The reaction was a tsunami of fury. The company lost 800,000 subscribers in months, and its market value evaporated. Netflix, which had killed Blockbuster, seemed to have pointed the gun at its own head. CEO Reed Hastings acted quickly. He canceled the Quickster idea and issued an apology. But the real turnaround was the decision to double down on the future, streaming. And to ensure customers wouldn't leave, they needed something no one else had. The solution? Original content. Netflix invested $100 million in a series. Nobody wanted House of Cards. It was a resounding success that changed the rules of Hollywood. From there, Netflix transformed from a tech company into one of the largest and most influential studios in the world, proving that sometimes content is in fact king. We've reached our top 5, and the story in 5th place is about the courage to admit a painful truth. Domino's Pizza, for years, was synonymous with fast delivery, but not with quality. And in 2009, everyone knew it. In taste tests, it's pizza. Even lost to frozen ones. The most common criticism? The sauce tastes like ketchup and the crust tastes like cardboard. The company could have ignored it, could have run a deceptive marketing campaign. But they did the unthinkable. They agreed with the criticism. In one of the most brutally honest campaigns in history, Domino's went public and said, "Yep, you're right. Our pizza isn't good, and we're going to change that." They showed real customers trashing their product. They showed their own chefs embarrassed. And then they changed everything. The recipe for the sauce, the crust, the cheese. They launched a completely new pizza and asked the public to give them a second chance. This radical honesty shocked the market and won back the customers' trust. The turnaround was so spectacular that in the following decade, Domino's stock rose by more than 2,000%, surpassing tech giants like Google and Apple. Our 4th place is a lesson in focus. Lego, the world's most beloved toy company. But in the early 2000s, Lego was broke, with a debt of nearly $1 billion. Why? It forgot who it was. In an attempt to innovate, Lego strayed from its core product, the simple building block. It launched confusing action figure lines, video games that failed, and theme parks that bled money. The company was doing a little bit of everything, and nothing right. The magic was dying. The turnaround came with a new CEO, Jürgen Vig Knudstorp, who asked a simple question: what makes Lego Lego? The answer was obvious: the brick. The strategy was radical: cut the diversification and return to its roots. The number of unique pieces produced was cut in half. The focus returned to creativity and construction. But the masterstroke was combining this focus with brilliant licensing partnerships. Lego Star Wars, Lego Harry Potter. Suddenly, kids could build the universes they loved. Lego not only saved itself, but became more relevant than ever, being crowned at its peak the most powerful brand on the planet, surpassing Ferrari. We enter our podium, and the bronze medal goes to a turnaround that created a universe. Literally. Today, Marvel is the biggest force in Hollywood. But in 1996, it was a joke. After disastrous management and the collapse of the comic book market, Marvel declared bankruptcy. To raise some cash and survive, it sold off the crown jewels, the rights to its most popular heroes. Spider-Man went to Sony, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four to Fox. Marvel was left with only the heroes that nobody in Hollywood wanted. B-list characters like Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. It was then that a small group of executives, led by Kevin Feige, had the most audacious idea in cinema history. What if we make the movies ourselves? They took the rights to the characters they had left and mortgaged them to secure a loan. It was a single bet. If the first film failed, Marvel Studios would cease to exist. That film was Iron Man, and it wasn't just a success. It laid the foundation for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a web of interconnected stories that redefined blockbusters and became the highest-grossing franchise of all time. Marvel transformed its rejected heroes into the biggest pop culture icons of the 21st century. Our silver medal goes to a comeback that happened right before our eyes. Today, Tesla is synonymous with the future of automobiles, but in 2018, it was weeks from death. The company had bet everything on its first mass-market car, the Model 3. But producing it at scale proved to be a logistical nightmare, a production hell, in the words of Elon Musk himself. Tesla was burning cash at an unsustainable rate, failing to meet every target, and becoming the favorite target of investors, betting on its bankruptcy. Musk knew there was no plan B. He moved into the factory, sleeping on the floor and working 22-hour days to personally resolve the bottlenecks. In an act of desperation and genius, he built an entire assembly line from scratch, inside a giant tent set up in the parking lot. Little by little, the hell was overcome. Production began to scale. Tesla finally achieved profitability and proved that electric cars were not just the future, but the present. From near bankruptcy, Tesla took off to become the most valuable automaker on the planet, leaving a trail of ruined short sellers in its wake. And finally, number one, the greatest, most legendary, and most inspiring of all comebacks. The story that redefined what it means to be on the verge of death and return as a god. The story of Apple. In 1997, Apple was a shadow of its former self. After having forced out its founder, Steve Jobs, the company got lost in a jungle of confusing and soulless products. It had lost the computer wars. It was 90 days from insolvency. It was the end. And then, the rejected founder returned home. Steve Jobs returned to the company he created in a garage and found chaos. His first move was brutal. He cut 70% of the products to focus on just 4. He shocked the world by announcing a partnership with arch-rival Microsoft just to stay alive. And then, he reminded the world what Apple stood for. Not with a product, but with an idea. The Think Different campaign didn't sell a computer. It sold a philosophy. It was a tribute to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels. And it was the prelude to the greatest series of innovations in history. The iMac, the iPod, iTunes, and then the iPhone. The product that not only saved Apple, but changed the world forever. Apple didn't just turn around. It ascended to a level that no other company has ever reached. From near bankruptcy, it became the most valuable and influential company in human history. It is the definitive proof that with passion, focus, and a bit of craziness, a big comeback has no limits. From IBM to Apple, these 10 stories show us that failure is rarely the end. It is often the beginning of something much bigger. They teach us about courage, innovation, and the incredible human capacity to reinvent oneself. Which of these comebacks inspired you the most? And more importantly, which big company, Brazilian or global, do you want to see in the next big comeback? Leave your suggestion in the comments below, as your idea could be our next video. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any story of overcoming adversity. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.